Hey everybody, we are live. It is now 8:30. So happy Wednesday. This is Chuck Gross here. Hope everyone's having a great week. And I want to apologize for having to reschedule last week. I was kind of battling a cold. I had lost my voice entirely, and I'm still kind of battling a cold. So I may be coughing. You have to excuse me. And I had to put my cat to sleep last week. So it was a hell of a week last week. Because there were questions asked for last week's Hangout and this week's Hangout, there are a bunch. So I'm just going to try to get through them as well as I can. I have to respect the 30-minute time limit because I'd be a hypocrite if I didn't, meaning it would be cutting into my sleep. And at the same time, I encourage everyone to make sure that you have a regimen and a schedule around sleep. So I have to make sure I stick to mine. So thank you for understanding. All right. So if there are any questions I can't get to this evening, I'll automatically move them to the next week's Hangouts. So let's get started. Alrighty, our first question comes from Stephen, and it's related to dealing with cravings. Stephen asks, how do people deal with cravings for really high calorie stuff? Things like pizza or McDonald's or stuff like that. Stephen says that he knows he can always budget the calories to fit them in and get some, have some food that way. But how do you handle those cravings in the meantime? So Stephen, that's a great question, and I'm glad you asked it. Like you said, one strategy is to budget those calories in your total calories for the day first, and then you can kind of work backwards, filling in with high protein, high vegetable foods, and you'd be surprised what you can kind of fit into your calorie goals, especially since for most people, your calorie goals aren't too aggressive. So other than that, there are a couple ways you can manage cravings like that. And the first way would be to go with a reasonable facsimile. And what I mean by that is in the case of McDonald's, let's say you take whatever your normal McDonald's meal is, and you instead make a version of it at home that you can control the quality and quantity of the food going into the ingredients, as well as make some minor adjustments here or there that are, lower calorie versions of things that may taste the same. For example, mayonnaise, you can generally go with a lower calorie mayonnaise and the taste difference isn't too much. So that will give you a similar taste. The meal will likely be lower in calories, won't be a bunch of preservatives, and you'll have generally more food by volume, and it'll actually be cheaper if you're buying enough food in bulk. Therefore, it'll actually leave you more satiated because it is, more volume too. Another thing could be making your own pizza at home, and you could do things like using a higher fiber crust. You could use a lower fat cheese, a lower sugar pizza sauce. You could use veggies on, for the toppings instead of the high meat toppings. That's where the calories really add up. Or you can even use things like lower fat turkey pepperoni. So that type of reasonable equivalent may kind of deal with that craving, or it may not. That's one thing you can try though. The second thing is to kind of look into the myriad reasons why a craving could be occurring. So the reason that a craving could occur could be plenty of things. Not enough sleep, not enough water intake, not enough sunshine or vitamin D, not enough fiber, not enough protein, too much sugar, or recently too low of calories, can kind of ramp up your calories. I'm sorry, can ramp up your cravings. So that's a lot of things that could be happening nutrition-wise. Fiber is a big one. Your gut bacteria, if you feed them a lot of sugar, you have a high sugar diet, your cravings are going to be oriented towards junk food. If you eat a high fiber diet, then your gut bacteria are going to basically change your cravings and your taste buds to crave things that are not high in sugar, which all fast food generally does have sugar added. Even the things like the buns have lots of sugar, the sauces have lots of sugar, there's likely added sugar in the cheese, etc. So outside of the physical reasons why you could be having cravings and substitutes, there are emotional triggers for cravings as well. So if there's an emotional reason such as stress, etc., it's best to try to deflect that craving and deal with that source of the stress rather than just try to suck it up, essentially. So, let's say that it is stress. You'd want to try to alleviate that stress through things like exercise, yoga. I of course, consider yoga exercise, but it's a different form of exercise. Meditation or something else that relaxes you, like a hot bath or a shower, just going for a walk, just chilling, basically. Just anything to relieve your stress. Alrighty. Our next topic was one that was brought up by multiple people, and it's related to body fat measurement tools that you can buy for your house. That includes things where your scale can measure your body fat percentage, or there's like a handheld device you can hold on to and it'll measure your body fat percentage. So in general, the primary issue with handheld or scale-based measurements is that they have some relation to how hydrated you are. So depending on what time of day it is, how much water and or salt or carbs you've had that day and or the day before, it's going to give you a wide range of inaccuracy. They're okay to give you a general idea as long as you're understanding that there are going to be big swings dependent on a couple factors, and that as long as you're looking at the trend over a long enough timeline, and that's a big if, and as long as you try to use that exact same tool at the same time on the same day of the week, then you may be able to kind of smooth that curve out over a long enough timeline. But again, there's still going to be things that could cause wild swings in accuracy, meaning like, okay, let's say you decided to go out on Friday and drink, and you have a bunch of alcohol, and your body fat just decreased by 20% overnight. Great job, awesome. Is that really going to help you understand what's going on with your body, or is that going to create a negative relation or a positive relationship between alcohol and body fat loss? So, I think there are some better health metrics you can look at, and that's going to be BMI, as well as some other metrics such as waist to height ratio or waist to hip ratio. There's a website called health-.com. I'm sorry, health-calc, not the word dash, but the actual small dash. health-calc.com. They have some calculators that help you kind of figure these things out. And if you need the link, just let me know after the hangout and I'll help you out. But if there's a particular method that you favor and you want to track that in addition to what we're tracking in your progress tracker, please let me know. I am all for additional ways to track progress that go beyond the scale, since in the short term, the scale is pretty much useless. It is subject to fluctuations, much the same reasons that body fat measurements are as well. So, our next few questions come from Jessica. And Jessica's first question is, what is spirulina? So Jessica, high five, because that means you've read your program document all the way through. And not only that, but clicked on some of the linked documents inside your program document, because I know that's where you got the question from. So high five, A+, you win. So spirulina is listed on my list of protein sources document that everyone should have access to. And it's listed as a low calorie, high protein source. Single serving of spirulina is 26 calories, almost 6 grams of protein, which is like 4.4 calories per gram of protein. So, full disclosure, I included it in the document because of all of its health benefits and the fact that it's high protein, low calorie, but I haven't ever tried it myself. I just wanted to include some options for you that if, I don't want to eat meat all the time, there are other foods out there, but also to let you know that there aren't an unlimited number of things you could eat that have protein in them. There are options, but every choice you make has a cost. There's a cost benefit going on with every choice you make. So some of the health benefits that it can lower cholesterol levels. It acts as an antioxidant. It's anti-inflammatory. It can reduce your blood pressure. It helps with your blood sugar control, which means it helps with your hunger, etc. As to what it is, it's actually a plant, and it's a blue-green algae, which means it grows in the sea. So now, hear me out before you say ooh. People have been eating it for hundreds of years around the entire world, and it doesn't mean you need to have like seaweed on a plate. You can get it in a pill form or a powder form, and the protein in a supplement like that still counts, but you won't get the benefit of actually feeling full from the volume of it being in your stomach. It's always preferable to chew your calories when it comes to weight loss. You can't take it if you have any seafood allergies or if you have an iodine allergy at all. So, and as always, if you're going to supplement something, you need to involve your doctor in that decision. I can't tell you, take the supplement. I'm not able to do that. If you want to supplement something, I can kind of point you in the right direction, but you need to talk to your doctor, because supplements, can interfere with any other medical treatment you're getting, or you might have other conditions that make supplements dangerous. So, all right. Jessica's next question is about depression. And she specifically noticed that, one of the things I talk about is that I was depressed when I was 400 pounds. And she was wondering if I did anything specific to help that, or if the symptoms kind of gradually went away as I lost more weight. And I think that's an amazing question. I don't think anyone's actually asked me that before, despite the fact that I said that I was depressed when I was 400 pounds. Um, so I will say that once I saw some initial progress on the scale, my progress at first was rather rapid. When you're, that large, you can have a larger calorie deficit and the weight just kind of flies off. And I had the motivation that I had a timeline. I had a daughter being born in less than 9 months, so I was going to be a dad. I had a lot of things that were kind of pushing me, and those things kind of lifted me up out of my depression. That the seeing rapid progress and knowing that I was working towards something, being a dad. But I will say that those things were like a spark. But the thing that actually has been constant for me, that has alleviated those feelings, has been weightlifting for me. Once I started weightlifting, because I didn't do it right away, I waited about 2 or 3 months before I started weightlifting, and I noticed like a dramatic change in my mood, as far as like an even mood across the day as opposed to ups and downs, and changes in my thoughts and feelings too. Excuse me. It's actually funny you mentioned this. I was having a heck of a day last week, and it was an off day for me with no exercise scheduled. And due to how busy I was, I didn't have a chance to get out and walk around on my lunch after my lunch. And I was having these negative thoughts, and I couldn't really explain them. And they were bad enough that I actually asked my wife if she thought that I've always had that depression, even after losing weight. But the exercise, the workouts have kind of kept it at bay with my consistency. I mean, I really have rarely ever missed a workout that I didn't plan to miss, meaning like I scheduled it or a week off or something like that. So I'm going to say I think it's a combination of the lifestyle changes related to food choice. I've optimized my sleep quality and quantity. I've maintained my weight loss. I make sure I get enough water, and the regular consistent weightlifting have essentially pushed those symptoms so far into the background that only very rarely do they pop up again for me. Like I said, I sometimes still get some sad feelings that I can't actually explain the reason why. And that's usually when that's when I want to skip my workout. But I have such of a habit built up that it's harder for me to skip the workout at that point than it is to not. Meaning, like, it's such a habit that I need to work out that it requires more effort and energy to skip than it does to not skip. So normally those workouts, when I'm like starting my workout and I'm like, oh, this sucks, I don't want to do this today. Yes, I still have that happen to me all the time. Those are my best workouts, because by the end of it, I feel total 180. I feel amazing. So that's something to keep in mind. All right. Jessica's next question is related to MyProtein brand flavors. And I was actually going to wear my MyProtein shirt today, but I use it in the gym, so it's not clean. Jessica wants to know how the flavors are. To be honest, I really only rarely have protein shakes myself anymore. And when I do, I mix them with water. And I do that because protein shakes just mixed with water tend to increase my hunger. And like I said, I'd rather chew my food. But there are times when I use them where like I haven't had much protein in a day and I'm about to work out and I want to get some fast protein in, or I work out and I know I have like maybe an hour and a half between my like next meal. Like I'm going out to dinner or something, so I'll have a protein shake then. So I don't actually use it as a meal replacement. I'll just mix it with water and basically chug it really fast. The vanilla doesn't taste bad to me because of that, but it is kind of really sweet and tastes almost like artificial sweeteners. But I will say that if you add something like a low calorie, low sugar almond milk, like an unsweetened almond milk or skim milk, the flavor is greatly improved. So like I said, I don't really do that because I kind of would rather save calories for food that you chew, because my hunger levels are kind of astronomical. So the good news, though, is that Dana has tried a bunch of different flavors and recently kind of shared her opinion of them with me. And she said that she's tried toffee, salted caramel, or caramel, however you want to say it, and mocha. She had the latte flavor, but hasn't tried it yet. She said that toffee and caramel and mocha are all better than vanilla and chocolate, and they're not as overly sweet. But she mentions that toffee and salted caramel do taste pretty much like the same thing. So it kind of sounds like that mocha is good if you like a coffee taste, I did email MyProtein, and they don't have any caffeine in their actual coffee flavored proteins. So that's something to keep in mind. All right. And Jessica's next question is related to water that you mix in your protein shakes. She wants to know that should we count the water in a protein shake towards our daily water intake? I would say yes, do count the water in the protein shake, especially since you'll be measuring out the water you want to put in a protein shake. Normally, I would, I'm not real big on you have to measure every single thing, especially things that don't have calories. The reason I measure out the water in my protein shakes is for taste purposes, meaning if you put too much water with the powder, the taste is bad and it dilutes the taste horribly. And if you don't put enough, and it gets like clumpy and disgusting. So there's kind of like, the Goldilocks thing where you have to have it just right. So, and also since you mentioned water, like sparkling or mineral water is a great option, and it can actually help you with hunger a little bit more than plain water because there's, some carbonation. You can do carbonated water too. It's fine. And that can kind of help with your hunger a little bit too if you have hunger. All right. The next question comes from Danny. Danny says that she's tried a supplement called Optimind that helps with focus, energy, and memory. She mentions that she could tell a difference after the second day of using it. And Danny wants to know, could this pill counteract the work she's doing towards a healthier lifestyle? Danny, that's a great question. Like I mentioned earlier, I can't really specifically recommend supplements at all, and that you probably want to check with your doctor on that one. If there's any other health conditions or medications, it could potentially counteract with those or lessen their effect or even increase their effect. So that's something you want to refer to your doctor with. However, I do want to mention the supplement industry is incredibly shady and likes to sneak in things illegally or lie on their labels. Companies get busted for that all the time. A famous protein manufacturer, Optimum Nutrition, which is considered the gold standard, there was a controversy recently about some incorrect label claims. So you have to kind of be careful with supplements. That type of supplement, though, is called a nootropic, and that means it's brain related, and that that means it basically enhances cognition, focus, alertness, or well-being. So what I'd recommend here is that if you go to their website and look up the ingredients, and then look up the specific ingredients on examine.com. So I did look it up already. And some of them I'm already familiar with. Like it has vitamin D, vitamin B12, L-tyrosine, caffeine, ALA. And there are some ingredients that I've heard of, but I'm not familiar with. And then there are some things on there that I've never heard of. And that's kind of the things with supplements. They can have these proprietary blends, and it's hard to say what it is. However, it's unlikely, but not impossible, that the nootropic would negatively affect your weight loss. But I can't really speak to how specifically it would impact your individual health and your well-being. So like I said, there's information out there that you can take from what they list on their site, and you can look on examine.com to find out specifics. But beyond that, you probably want to check with your doctor. Alrighty. The next question comes from Yasmin. And Yasmin is doing a primal challenge soon, and that's a group fitness course. And Yasmin wants to know how she can avoid injury while doing something that's intense, done in a group, and that she's going to be trying to work at the level of the fitter people. Yasmin has a concern about doing her typical thing where she tries to err too far on the side of caution, and she's not pushing hard enough to actually get results. So I think you hit the nail right on the head there, Yasmin. Your statement of trying to work at the level of the fitter people, that's exactly how you get injured. Yes, it's good to be inspired and motivated by the people around you, but if they're fitter than you, they are by definition at a higher level than you fitness wise. So you shouldn't be trying to exceed your limits. That's how you get injured. I understand your concern about not, kind of just doing the minimum. It's dangerous though when it pushes you beyond what is safe for you personally. So you don't want to do anything that hurts you, and I think you should try to pace yourself, and then week after week or day after day, try to do better than you did last time. Even though you're in a group, and let the group motivate you and push you, you still have to consider the context of yourself and where you were the first workout and have you improved on the second workout, rather than just comparing yourself to the people around you. So listening to your body is a skill. And that means I unfortunately can't just say, just do this and you'll understand what your body's saying to you with clarity. So, excuse me, like other skills, it's about looking back at what you didn't do so great, and you examine that reflectively and objectively, and then you try to apply what you've learned next time. So real progress comes right as your toe crosses the line of discomfort. It's not at the extremes of discomfort. That's where injury happens. You can make a lot of progress if you just toe the line right over the line of your comfort zone. So this goes back to the famous Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. It's when you're not currently in a comparable shape to the rest of your group, 80% of your returns are going to come from 20% of your work. So in this case, it's going to be from you going 20% over your default mode of not trying hard enough. But anything beyond that, starting point of default of not trying, go 20%. But anything over that 20%, Yasmin, is going to be going to come with an increased risk and a diminished reward. So you'll be trading that increased risk of injury for diminishing returns as to how they would impact your fitness goals. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay. Our next question is also from Yasmin, and Yasmin was asking about diet breaks. Yasmin has been reading Lyle McDonald's Rapid Fat Loss Protocol. If you've ever listened to anything that I've spoken about before, I usually do mention Lyle as a source of inspiration and information for me when I first got started. And I do own his Rapid Fat Loss Protocol, and I've read it. And I do think that in general, diet breaks can be a good idea, but it really depends. The Lyle McDonald style diet breaks are a specific thing, and they are specific to the Rapid Fat Loss Protocol, which is a crash diet. So I'll go through what the diet break is in the context of rapid fat loss protocols. So for most people, if you're on rapid fat loss protocol, you're eating under 1,000 calories of nothing but low fat protein sources and broccoli, lettuce, cucumbers, green peppers, and then fish oil supplements. I've tried it before myself and it's miserable. But Lyle goes into there being two types of diet breaks. There's a physical diet break and a mental diet break. So in order to determine when you get these diet breaks, Lyle simplifies things by putting people into 3 categories. And the timing and frequency of those breaks is based on what category you fit into, based on where your body fat percentage is. So category 3 is if 26% or higher for a male, 35% or higher for a woman. Category 2 is the range of 16 to 25% for men and 25 to 34% for women. Category 1 is 15% or lower for men and 24% or lower for women. Now, as we just talked about, body fat percentage is a tricky thing to measure on your own. So Lyle uses a baseline calculation that takes and correlates BMI to body fat percentage, which I think is a fine compromise. So if you want to learn more about that, we can certainly talk about that. This breaks down to essentially being the case that the higher your category number, the longer you can actually go without needing a break. The lower your category, the leaner you are, the more muscle mass you're likely holding, then you're going to need breaks more frequently. So category 3 people, if they're doing a rapid fat loss protocol, would get 1 free meal per week. And then they would take a 2-week break when strict dieting becomes like a mental drag. Usually that's like, most people would say like 12 weeks on. Then you take like a 2-week break, which is fine. That's of a rapid fat loss protocol. Category 2 dieters would get 1 free meal and a refeed. So the difference between a free meal and a refeed in this context is a free meal is just a meal where you try to eat mindfully. You still have a protein source and a vegetable side dish and then something else in addition. And if you want to have a small dessert, but generally you want to keep the meal time to 30 minutes. And it's not a contest to eat as much as possible in 30 minutes. or to order the worst thing on the menu. So if you're doing a rapid fat loss protocol, you're basically eating zero carb. So in this case, it would be like going to a steak dinner and getting a steak and a baked potato or French fries and a Caesar salad, and that would be your free meal for your whole week. A refeed is, it sounds good on paper, but in practice, it's not. Trust me. A refeed would be like you overfeed carbs to the point of overeating on calories with an incredibly low fat number. I'm talking like 25, 30 grams of fat and a large number of carbs. And the only way you can get that is like, you also want to keep sugar lower too, or you have blood sugar crashes. So basically, it boils down to eating like no fat bagels with no butter, and that's it. And you basically just end up super thirsty and you don't feel great. So there's a specific reason for that though. But and then category 1 dieters don't. It's not really recommended you do a rapid fat loss protocol to begin with. So then you'd only be doing it for like 4 days and then you're done. So that you don't really get like a break. So like I said, this is all specifically for crash diets that are protein sparing modified fasts. In general, I don't really work with anyone currently that's category 1 that I can think of offhand. And very rarely do I utilize a crash diet approach. There are some times when it's appropriate. I think there may be one person that I'm working with right now that's doing it, but they are doing it under their doctor's supervision. So I don't think that diet breaks are entirely necessary, because I'd rather we take the middle ground approach between the extremes and go with a reasonable calorie deficit and not stress out on days when you go over or you're near maintenance. I think that the idea of a break kind of solidifies the idea of there are foods that are allowed on plan and off plan. And my plan for you should be that there is no plan. It's just food, and you have a calorie budget. And if you'd like to lose weight, you have to be within your budget, but you don't have to be under budget every single day. It's really about what happens over a long enough period of time. So if there are foods you want to eat, you should eat them. You shouldn't feel guilt about it. You shouldn't have to feel like you're saving up so you can have this food for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then you're going to have 2 whole pizzas. It's like that's a bad place to be when it comes to a relationship with food. So I think in Yasmin's case, she was looking for like what to do around a vacation or a period where she doesn't really want to focus on that and has other things to worry about. And I would say that's certainly an appropriate time to consider yourself on a diet break. I plan to do that in early June. I'm going to the Bahamas with my family, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm not going to work out. I'm not going to have structured exercise. And I'm still going to track to keep my streak going, but I'm not going to try to hit any particular macros. If I want to have donuts for breakfast one day, I'm going to do it. It's not something I normally do for hunger reasons, but it's a 1-week break, and I don't normally let go of what I'm working on for that long of a period. So 1 week I can do it. One week a year, and I just don't worry about it. I just eat the way I want to eat, and that's fine. It's 1 week out of 52. It's not a problem. So, you can kind of do that around holidays as well. I sometimes do that around Christmas, because you don't want to be like really pushing yourself really hard up to Christmas Eve or something, and then you just go hog wild. It's like, can kind of like take a middle ground approach here. There is indeed scientific evidence around diet breaks to restore leptin levels. But again, the speed at which leptin levels are going to be dropping depends on how extreme your approach is and how much body fat you carry currently to begin with. So, and I would hope everyone understands by now that if you work with me, the answer is we don't go for the extreme unless it's medically necessary or there's something else going on that we need to take an extreme approach temporarily. So, I think that pretty much covers the topic. If you need any clarifications, let me know. All right. And I think we're right on time. We have one question left. And this question comes from Brandon. And Brandon asks, does dried fruit have any different nutritional values than the fresh version? Would having something like dried apricots as a snack be any different than a fresh one? Great question, Brandon. Yes, that would be very different. In general, dried fruit is not a great choice due to the vast nutritional differences. So since you mentioned apricots, 1 cup of fresh apricot halves is 74 calories, but a cup of dried apricots is 212 calories. And that's if it's just the dried fruit itself. Most of the times they add sugar to dried fruit. So dried food is a great choice if you're trying to gain weight and you need quick, easy, fast calories, or you're doing something like training for an endurance race or a really long hike, and you need something that's portable, small, doesn't weigh much, and gives you lots of calories and energy. So to highlight what I'm saying about this is if you go to Trader Joe's or Target, they have dried bananas in their pantry section. And the bag is about as big as my two fists, like this. That's a tiny bag. That entire bag of dried bananas, which would be a smaller bag than the size of a medium banana. So like the bag itself is smaller than a medium banana. That bag is 2,400 calories, 0 grams protein, 195 grams carbs, 165 grams fat, which would be 150 grams of saturated fat. That is probably, like, I hate to say foods are good or bad in isolation, but if you ate the entire bag of that in one sitting, which honestly I could probably eat that entire bag in 2 mouthfuls, that would be an unhealthy food choice because you would be taking in 150 grams of saturated fat and more calories than almost as many calories as I need to maintain my weight in 1 or 2 mouthfuls. That's how bad dried fruit can be, especially when they add fat and sugar. So something to keep in mind there. All right. I think I made it all the way through. I didn't lose my voice too much, only a little bit of coughing. There are some questions that were asked. I'm going to try to get through them really quickly in the next couple minutes here. Alessandro is asking, is it necessary to have 5 meals, meaning 3 meals and 2 snacks to activate metabolism? And he said he's not too hungry during the day and can stay longer, he can stay without having to snack. There's no need to have 3 meals and 2 snacks. Meal frequency is really up to you. There may be some additional reasons to have a larger number of meals if you're trying to gain muscle. But for weight loss, it doesn't really matter. Basically, whatever helps you adhere to your calorie goal and your protein goals, that's fine. Many people, however, may find it hard to eat a lot of protein in one meal. So the only reason I'd say to have more meals is so that you can meet your protein goal for the day by spreading them out to be more. So I personally only eat 3 meals and 0 snacks, and that allows me to stay fuller longer. If the more meals I eat, the hungrier I get. So I would actually recommend that if you want to hit a calorie goal and you don't have a problem with meeting your protein goal, eat fewer meals. Like I said, I eat 3 meals now. I skip breakfast, but I have a meal right before bed. If I'm trying to actually control my consumption without really strictly tracking, I would reduce that down to 2 meals just so that I can control my hunger a little bit better. As many of us are overweight, we have problems with our blood sugar, which affects our hunger. So additional meals don't actually generally help in that case. Now, there may be some medical reasons, someone with diabetes that may need to have blood sugar under control under a different circumstance. But in a metabolically normal person, the number of meals for weight loss is irrelevant. It's a personal preference. And the next question comes from Jessica, and she's saying she's having a really hard time finding an exercise routine that doesn't bore her after a while. Any advice? And she mentioned she's trying karate next week. So good luck with that. My wife recently just started Kung Fu in January, and she kind of had the same problem you did. She's tried weightlifting, body weight, various things like that. She's tried Highland Games, which is you basically throw rocks and telephone poles around, which she loves, but it's hard to practice indoors. But I ended up loving Kung Fu because it was competitive. It was a martial art, and it basically lets your body gets to move around and you get to see what you're capable of. I would say keep trying different things like you're doing, but after you try them, don't just say, well, that didn't work. Look at it objectively. Like, what did you like about it? What didn't you like about it? What was something that could have been better that would have made you like the entire activity? And you'd be surprised the options that are out there if you kind of are able to look at things objectively. And the answer might not be one thing. It might be a combination of things that the basically the combination of their pros versus cons makes you happy and less bored by combining them. Normally everyone's like, you have to lift weights 3 or 4 times a week, but that's to say you like lifting weights, but you only like doing it 2 days a week, and then you like doing karate 2 days a week, and the combination of those two makes you happy and not bored. Then you found what works for you. Finding something that you love and can do consistently is far more important at first than the specifics of what you do. So that's something to keep in mind. Okay, I think that covers all the questions. I'm intending to have a hangout again next week. As long as my voice cooperates, it's starting to go now. So everyone have a great night. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to everyone soon. Take care.